All right, guys, welcome back to the channel, back for another review of Tulsa King Season 3. We are on episode 5 entitled On the Rocks. So before, like I always do, before I give my review slash thoughts of the episode, I got to give a score. And I thought this was a solid episode. Some people say it may be a step backwards, but I say because I believe we're at the halfway point. I believe this is where things should start lining up for the rest of the season. And I think we're at that point. I think they've reached that point. And so as far as the score goes, I mean, first off, if you're new to the channel, scoring system is 0 to 5, 0 being trash and 5 being a masterpiece. I gave this one about a 3.5. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. So got the score out of the way. Let's go into the review. And I'm gonna just, at least for me, I'm gonna kind of discuss what I thought were the main points of the episode or main parts of the episode. And so that means I'm not going to probably do a recap, like scene for scene or, this or that and the other. It's just kind of focusing more on the more important things of the episode. So I'm kind of trimming the fat off of this because I don't want this review to run too long. So with that being said, let's get into it. So a lot of this episode has to deal with the launch party, for the 50 bourbon, the Montague, bourbon. And so a lot of the credit, because this is a big event. This is a big thing for Dwight. And you see this in the episode. He talks about just how important this is for him, as far as legacy and future. This is a big thing. And so it's starting off very well. I mean, the buzz is out there. The marketing is great. And you got to tip your cap to Grace and Bodie, which, I'm counting down the days when they're just going to make it official, but where it's heading with those two. They're going to end up together, but they're able through their marketing to get, influencers and craft makers, guys who are in that world of alcohol, all to this one place. So things are on the up and up for Dwight. But at the same time, there's a lot going on behind the scenes because Dwight gets contacted by Agent Musso, who wants him to, he gets contacted by the watchmaker. And Dwight, turns down the watchmaker because he's like, I got this thing going on tonight. And then he immediately gets a phone call from Musso telling him, hey, you need to take that meeting. So what we know is Musso has his phone tapped. He knows everything that Dwight does. If Dwight says he's going right and goes left, Musso's going to be on the left waiting for him. That's just how like I said, it's going to be very hard for Dwight to do anything. And I'm going to talk more about what Dwight is doing behind the scenes and how that's going to lead to a bad deal. We just know, but I'll talk about a little bit of that towards the end of the review. So Dwight eventually goes to meet with the watchmaker. The watchmaker is like, hey, I checked you out. You're for real. Okay, what do you want me to do for you? And so he wants a name. And Dwight gives him the name of Jeremiah Dunmeyer. Excuse me, allergies are killing me. But it's a five in total, it's a $500,000 deal. He wants half up front and half once it's done. Of course, Dwight doesn't want to go through with it, but he eventually goes through, takes some money out of the vault in their casino, gives them the money. And the crazy thing about this meeting is that before the watchmaker leaves, he looks to Dwight and go, are you a Fed? And then he's just like, the watchmaker's like, I'm just little humor or whatever. But I think there's a piece of me that thinks this guy might know something. But then again, he took the job. So he probably doesn't, but it's just very interesting that he would just bring that up. Like, are you a Fed, kind of thing. So, so that meeting comes to an end. Excuse me. God, I'm telling you, man, the allergies here where I'm from, it's bad. It's bad. At least for me, it is. But anyway, like I said, we move on. Like I said, our main focus is this meeting. And then what ends up happening is word gets back to New York, and Bill Belacqua gets a phone call from Vince. Vince this time is prying into the business, basically putting it out there that, like, look, Quiet Pete knows what's going on. You guys are doing big things out there. You know they're going to want their piece, trying to get Bill to kind of just give in and, kind of create some kind of turmoil between him and Dwight. And I got to salute Bill on this one because Bill's like, no, it's none of your business. This is what I got going on out here. Don't try to come. Don't basically tell him don't try to strong arm me. It ain't gonna work on me. And the conversation is over. Ends it right then and there. I will say this, Bill. I'm starting to be team Bill on this. Like Bill, and like I said, I'll explain a little bit more of that towards the end. But that's something to keep in mind because let's just say later on there's a conversation between Bill and Dwight about their whole business venture and everything and how Dwight's been moving of late. So, sorry, I'm just my notes are over here, so I'm not crazy or anything. I just want to make sure. Okay, so so anyway, so yeah, I want to go back to the actual the launch. And so we got Kyle Thresher in the building. Of course, he doesn't want to be there, but he has to be there politically because he's kind of a weirdo. And him being amongst the people help him out. But he's like, I need to get in and get out. I don't want to be seen with the host, aka Dwight. And of course, he runs into Bill. If you remember last season, him and Bill were partners. So it was kind of this little awkward meeting or whatever. But they had their little meeting and they were able to kick rocks and keep it moving. Now, of course, I said New York found out what was going on. The Dunmeyers, they know what's going on. And see, the cool thing about this episode that they did was we've seen Jeremiah Dunmeyer be intimidating, like physically, like muscle wise, like what he can do, how he can touch people. And like you said, we saw what he did to Cleo's dad. But we see where his other power is and his influence. This man was able to get the AG and have the AG send an inspector there for the night during the night of the launch, which could upend the whole thing. So the inspector shows up, and of course he's doing his thing, and he's ready to shut them down. And they're in the little cellar with all the barrels, and Bigfoot. Just this lovable dummy pushes the barrels off the rack and they fall off and they end up killing them. And Bigfoot was like, oh, I just wanted to scare him, but they killed him. So they got a body in the cellar at the middle of this launch party. And so eventually what ends up happening is the Dunmeyers show up. And then we get to see once again, and I said this in my last review that, and I forgot her name, but I remember this time. Spencer, played by Sylvester Stallone's daughter, she had a moment a couple episodes ago with Cole, with him saving her. And they have a little moment again in this episode. And like I said, he's going to be the one. She's going to be the one to turn him, because like I said, his dad is just constantly, he does it in this episode. He's constantly just tearing him down. He can't win with his father, but through Spencer, he realizes I did something good. And so, and then they even share, like I said, they shared this moment, and I'll get to that here in a second here. So Jeremiah finally unleashes his rage, upends the whole meeting, takes over. He's in there peacocking and says, hey, this brew that y'all celebrating, it was stolen. I created this with the Montagues, and this is and basically they tear the joint down. They end up getting into a standoff. The AG is like, what the, he didn't expect it to go down like this. But like I said, Dunmeyer has that power over him. And then as Cole is destroying the barrels, he gets this look for him and Spencer. And like I said, I've said this in the last review. I think he's going to turn on his father. Because like I said, there's only so long you could just disrespect and put him down. And eventually, like I said, he's getting this connection with Spencer. He's going to turn. I'm calling it now. He's going to turn. Now, I want to kind of close out this review with Bill. So Bill, he knows something's up with Dwight. And even like Dwight, people, there's small little things like Dwight he's doing this random disappearing, not telling anybody where he's going. So eventually Bill shows up at his place and confronts him on it. And he's just like, and of course, Dwight, he ain't trying to hear that, because Bill's bringing up New York, like, hey, man, Quiet Petey's and Dwight's like, I ain't worried about that. I got, this is for my future, and whatever they want to do, we can do it. Like and so Bill kind of tells him, like, look, like, where were you earlier today? And he tried to say, oh, I was, and he goes, no, you were at the bar. You were at an appointment. And he's like, oh, you following me or whatever. And eventually gets heated, pulls a gun on Bill, and he says, you're accusing me of being a rat. And Bill breaks it down it's like, look, all these things you're doing, like these secret meetings, not telling anybody where you're going. I mean, put yourself in my shoes. What would you think? And he tells him, like, for all I know, because one of his places got raided. And so, I, I mean, like I said, he makes a very, very great point. And then the episode ends with Bill getting stopped on the street by who knows who. I mean, they could be feds. I don't know. The way they sounded didn't sound like they were feds, but they were dressed up like these guys were elite. And basically, Bill got bagged up on the street, and the episode fades to black. And so, just all in all, I think, like I said, Dwight, I mean, the way he's moving right now, he's moving very reckless. And I mean, a lot different than he was in the first 2 seasons. Like, he was more patient, but for some reason, this whole deal with this liquor thing has got him just not being himself. Of course, it doesn't hurt that, he's having to work with the feds. And I think when it gets revealed, it's going to crush the team, because this is one of those things. If he just, like, say, okay, if he doesn't want to tell everybody, that's fine, but he should at least tell his sister, tell Goody, Mitch, because when it all gets revealed and he doesn't, and it comes out, which it will, they're going to feel a certain way. Like, some people might leave the team, might leave the crew. So I don't know, man. I don't know. And then if Bill finds out, he's probably going to go with New York. So it's going to be really interesting, because I'm starting to get the feeling like, even when Dwight got bagged up, because he got bagged up twice, like at the end of season 1 and then season 2, I always felt, man, he there's a way, man. He's going to find a way. But this one, I'm really like, damn, what's going to happen? Like the other 2 seasons, I had no worries. Like, I was like, he's going to pull it off. But I'm actually like, what's going to happen to Dwight and his crew? Like, what's going to happen? Is somebody going to get killed in a mix of all this? Somebody from the crew? Because I think that's what we're due for, somebody in the crew to be taken out. We lost Jimmy, which Jimmy technically wasn't the inner circle, but somebody in the inner circle got to go. Somebody from the inner circle got to get hit. And Dunmire made a comment that basically telling them, like, whatever you take from me, I can take from you. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dwight's sister gets taken out. Dunmire's that kind of guy. He's already shown he has no issues with killing people's family members. He took out Cleo's dad, burned him alive. So I could see it getting dirty like this, to the point where the gloves really come off and they start going after people's family members. So yeah, guys, that's it. That's my review in a nutshell. Like I said, I gave it a solid 3.5. Guys, like I always say, if it's for 1 minute, 5 minutes, the whole damn video, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to view my content. If you haven't already, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe, smash the like, get in the comments, and tell me what you thought about this last episode. And with that being said, everybody, it's your boy P sign off, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.